जेट नामक पुस्तकको आज जो विमोचन कार्यक्रमका अतिथि पूर्व सचिवज्यू, यो पुस्तकका लेखक आदरणीय व्यक्तित्व हाम्रा आदरणीय कान्छो बुवा प्राध्यापक डाक्टर देशराज कुँवर, यो कार्यक्रममा सहभागी हुनुभएका विभिन्न विद्याबाट आउनुभएका आदरणीय व्यक्तित्वहरू, टकसपहरू र सहभागी दाजुभाइ तथा दिदीबहिनीहरू, सबभन्दा म यहाँलाई हार्दिक धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु। एउटा प्रबुद्ध व्यक्तित्व जसले आफ्नो जीवनकालमा महत्त्वपूर्ण समय मनोचिकित्साको क्षेत्रमा बिताउनु भएको छ र उहाँले आज एउटा किताब लेखेर आफ्नो जुन जिन्दगीभरि प्राप्त गरेको अनुभव हो त्यो अनुभव सँगालेर एउटा आफ्नो विचार प्रस्तुत गर्नुभएको छ किताबको रूपमा। त्यो हाम्रो हातमा प्राप्त भएको छ। अवश्य पनि यो किताबबाट हामी धेरै लाभान्वित हुनेछौँ र लिखित रूपमा प्राप्त भएका चिजहरू दस्तावेज, यी चिजहरूको दस्तावेजीकरण गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ र यी इतिहासमा जहिले पनि नमेटिने गरिरहेका हुन्छन्। र आज हाम्रो समाज दुई खालका रोगीहरूको व्यापक प्रचुर मात्रामा हामी देखाउन सक्छौँ। पहिलो डायबिटिसका बिरामीहरू, दोस्रो डिप्रेसनका बिरामीहरू हाम्रो समाजमा व्याप्त छन्। रूपमा उल्लेख भएको हुनुपर्छ, यद्यपि मैले राम्रो पढ्नु पाएको छैन। यद्यपि हामीले बाहिर आएको डेटाभन्दा पनि मसिनो ढङ्गले हामीले डेटा लिने हो भने गाउँघरमा डिप्रेसन भनेको के हो, कस्ता कस्ता बिरामीहरूलाई डिप्रेसन भन्दछन्, कस्ता कस्ता व्यक्तिहरू डिप्रेसनको शिकार भएका छन् भन्ने कुरा अझ मसिनो ढङ्गले बुझ्नु जरुरी छ। अझै मेडिकल क्षेत्रमा काम गर्नुहुने व्यवसायहरू, चिकित्सक यहाँहरूलाई म आग्रह गर्न चाहन्छु, यो डेटा लिन अझै डिटेलली डेटा लिन जरुरी छ। र दैनिक मलाई फोन आउने गर्दछ। म मन्त्रालयमा आइसकेपछि श्रमिकसँग श्रम मन्त्री भनेर हामीले कल सेन्टरमा जाने गरेको छु। आइतबार 1 घण्टाको कार्यक्रममा थुप्रै मान्छेहरू रोइरहेका छन्, कराइरहेका छन् र उहाँहरूको भोइस सुन्दाखेरि, उहाँका क्रन्दन सुन्दाखेरि उहाँहरूको अवस्था निकै नाजुक छ। त्यसैले हामीले यी पुस्तकहरू ती व्यक्तिहरूको हातमा पुग्नु पर्दछ कि डिप्रेसनको हुनुबाट हामी कसरी जोगिने, हामी त्यसबाट छुटकारा पाउनको लागि के विधिहरू अपनाउनु पर्ने हुन्छ, यी कुराहरू, यी विषयहरूलाई हामीले त्यहाँसम्म पुर्याउनु पर्ने हुन्छ। त त्यसैले मान्छेहरू जतिसुकै सम्पन्न भए पनि, जतिसुकै बौद्धिक भए पनि मेन्टल्ली ऊ सन्तुष्टि रहेन भने डिप्रेसनको शिकार हुने गर्दछ। त्यसैले सन्तुष्टि भनेको महत्त्वपूर्ण कुरा हो। मेन्टल रूपमा हामी सन्तुष्टि रहेनौँ, मेन्टल रूपमा हामी ठिक रहेनौँ भने बाँकी शारीरिक रूपमा हामी जतिसुकै तन्दुरुस्त भए पनि, इकोनोमिकल्ली हामी जतिसुकै सशक्त भए पनि हामी ठिक ढङ्गले अगाडि बढ्न सक्दैनौँ। त त्यसैले यो क्षेत्रमा अहिलेको अवस्थामा यस्ता पुस्तकहरू आउनु जरुरी छ। म अरू विज्ञज्यूहरूलाई पनि आग्रह गर्न चाहन्छु, हामीले यस्ता रोगबाट छुटकारा पाउनको लागि, अझै यी रोगहरू नलाग्नु दिनको लागि हामीले यस्तै खालका कृतिहरू प्रकाशित गर्न सक्यौँ भने, अझै तलसम्म यो अध्ययन गर्ने बानी बसाल्यौँ भने अझै राम्रो हुन्थ्यो कि जस्तो मलाई लागेको छ। कयौँ मान्छेहरू बायोग्राफीहरू पढ्दछन्, कयौँ मान्छेहरू हिस्ट्री पढ्दछन्, कयौँ मान्छेहरू अन्य कलाकृतिहरू पनि पढ्ने गर्दछन्। र त्यसैले तल स्थानीय लोकल लेभलमा पनि, जहाँ ग्रासरुट्स, जहाँ खास गरी आधारभूत तह, त्यो तहसम्ममा पनि यी पुस्तकहरूलाई पुर्याइनु पर्दछ भन्ने मलाई लाग्दछ। त्यसैले यो कृति बस्नु भएकोमा आदरणीय व्यक्तित्व कान्छु प्राध्यापक डाक्टर देशराज कुँवरलाई म धेरै धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु।
Continue the discussion and we'll listen to our professors as well. So please bear with me for next. There is a biological basis for mental illness. They have this awareness. They used to talk about biological basis. We are all as psychiatrists aware of this great legend in the history of psychiatry. He developed that's a history in psychiatry. French neurologist, you must have heard of him, Jean Martin Charcot, during his time also, the hunt for neurobiological basis for mental illness was in a very active state. But again, they didn't have anything to prove it. And it was quite ridiculous that even the hysterical convulsion symptoms, which were quite prevalent that time also, he mentioned that it was undoubtedly some type of central nervous system disease. The central nervous system was responsible for that. But during autopsy, when they didn't find any brain lesions in people with hysterical conversion, then he would explain it by saying that it mysteriously disappeared. The lesion mysteriously disappeared because they didn't have anything to prove. During the same time, during the 1800s, there's a very mysterious illness which came into the picture, psychotic organic brain syndrome, which they called. And for the first time, they were able to pinpoint that the causative, or there is a causative organism for that in the form of Treponema pallidum, and the lack of vitamin, the niacin deficiency, were found in people who were suffering from mental illness, and they categorized them as psychotic organic brain syndrome. And from that time onwards, they started believing that no, definitely there is some biological basis in all this. But again, disappointment was there because there was no treatment available for all these things. Things like opium, morphine, scopolamine, to produce sleep, they used to use chloral hydrate, etc. Somehow they were managed for a condition called as general paralysis of the insane. They used to induce malaria till the person is no more active. But these were quite dangerous. Psychosurgery came into existence in 1836. So many lobotomies were done, frontal lobotomies were done in a very barbaric way. And the literature says that there were many females who actually suffered because of this frontal lobotomy. The nursing therapy started, it was rapidly used, there was no particular diagnosis, but actually people suffered really. Different conditions, and those conditions where other SSRIs were not able to adequately bring some clinical changes. Pharmacokinetics, we will not get into the details of the pharmacokinetics. All of us are repeated doses, the elimination half-life is at least increased by 30% to 50%. Again, this has a clinical evidence. And there is minimal excretion in the breast milk. Renal impairment, not much of an issue. I have already mentioned pharmacological profile remains unchanged even with renal impairment. But with hepatic impairment, they have mentioned some caution is should be exercised. The starting dose should be very low if a person has hepatic impairment. Again, with the metabolism like cytochrome P4 combination with antipsychotics, because antipsychotics are inhibited by the metabolized by the cytochrome P450 system, so it will have a favorable system. And so when we are using any warfarin or theophylline in the patient, we have to exercise more caution in that context. There's no introducing the OCD symptoms, and they scored it based on the Y box, Yale Brown obsessive compulsive rating scale. All these studies which were done back in 95, 96, between 91 and 96 and 97, they showed it had a favorable profile while using it with pediatric population as well, and the doses range of 50 to 200 milligram. It's well tolerated in patients with mild cardiovascular problem or seizure disorder. And RCTs, they have demonstrated that even in the OCD spectrum disorder like binge eating, bulimia nervosa, pathological shopping, the exact word will become pathological gambling, compulsive buying, and autism, it has shown some effectiveness. A very low level of suicidality, that's does not appear to disrupt the sleep, beneficial effects on sleep in patients with PTSD specifically, low incidence of sexual dysfunction, these are the benefits, and no significant affinity for histaminergic, adrenergic, and muscarinic receptors, which we saw earlier in the tricyclic antidepressants. The anti-OCD effect of SSRI, now we'll talk specifically about how actually it causes that anti-OCD effect. So, as we all know that serotonin reuptake inhibition is the prime role of all the SSRIs, but apart from serotonin reuptake, there are two other significant roles it does play, and because of which it is considered like it is more potent than any other SSRI in taking care of the OCD symptoms. And one of them is, I would like to quote few examples, like in the PET positron emission tests and all, those scans. it was found that fluvoxamine treatment increased the availability of dopaminergic D2 receptors in the dorsal and ventral striatum of patients, and specifically in the dorsal and ventral striatum, like which are all my presenters in a few minutes because of the arrival of VIP guests. And there it was diagnosed that she was having cataract, and the ophthalmologist, but since very senior ophthalmologist, associated with more cataract, development of cataract, especially in elderly population. So we have to be very cautious. We should always consider, because we have seen that in our real life. So we should be cautious when using fluvoxamine. That's from.
I should say, having sex with the mother, with his own mother, repeatedly, and that went on for 1 year. So he said that, this is not very good, so he was very guilty, he was depressed, and he attempted suicide. And that's why I started fluvoxamine. Fluvoxamine, so I started with 50 milligram, then I went up to 150 milligram. In 150 milligram, divided doses, BD, he was very fine. In 3 months' time, no more operations, and it's already 3 years. He has not got the relapse. That is one experience. And some very chronic cases of OCD also I have treated. And in those cases, fluvoxamine alone is not enough. So fluvoxamine up to 200, 250 milligram is not enough. Then I use chlorpheniramine up to 100 milligram, and the result is very good. But when you are using fluvoxamine, especially with the young girls, the galactorrhea is the problem. So that is the problem, especially the unmarried. And it's very, very to them, it is very not, digestible. So in that cases, when you use chlorpheniramine with fluvoxamine, it's a double. Galactorrhea will hyperprolactinemia produced by chlorpheniramine also, fluvoxamine also. So I stopped chlorpheniramine and only fluvoxamine is given. And when you give only fluvoxamine, the galactorrhea is less. But I find that there is a lot of individual variations. In some cases, you use both, they will not galactorrhea. In some cases, they get. And it is those, related also. So this is my clinical experience with fluvoxamine and use of chlorpheniramine, especially in the case of OCD. And fluvoxamine I have never used for depressions and anxiety disorders. Only in OCD cases I have used. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
The tendency of prescribing fluvoxamine in OCD and some certain cases of anxiety disorders, other depressive disorders, where other antidepressants do not work, do not show the same kind of a response. So I switch over fluvoxamine, adequate dose, along with chlorpheniramine at times. So there are a couple of drugs which are there for you to play around, and you don't know which patients will get it. So if you are lucky and the patient is lucky, any one of these antidepressants work magically. But sometimes you are not sure. So it's like that. And OCD, we have been told, we have been seen, and at times we prescribe, but yet the patient do not get satisfied, and you also do not get satisfied. Sometimes you have to move to other psychiatric antidepressant or anti-OCD drugs. That's my impression about fluvoxamine. Other thing is the side effects which have been mentioned are really minimal as compared to other antidepressants. Fluvoxamine is quite safe. Third thing which I noticed recently, fluvoxamine at 100 milligram a day for GAD, cerebral anxiety disorders, the patient rang me up that my whole body is getting itchy. I cannot sleep. After I take fluvoxamine, I am so upset. I'm restless because whole my body is itching and I do not see any rashes. So I told him, come back immediately, stopped fluvoxamine and give them anti-allergic. Next day is fine. So that is one thing that I would like to share with you, that at times we do come across allergic responses to different antidepressants as well. Otherwise, I do not have much things to share with you about fluvoxamine. Thank you.
Regarding its indications, mode of action, its pharmacodynamics, pharmacokinetics, has almost covered everything, so there's nothing to add. As we all know, this is an antidepressant and SSRI, so definitely we use in depression in different intensity. But right in here, I would like to highlight 2 points. Besides using as an antidepressant, as well as specifically in OCD, I want to mention here two incidents where I am trying to get the benefit out of its adverse or negative side effects. As Dr. Ashish has already shown in his slides, though he mentioned it's a weak inhibitor to 2D6, you may be right that in comparison to other enzymes, IC enzymes, its inhibition to 2D6 may be weaker. But in general, it blocks almost all our clinically relevant six all IC enzymes, P45. I mean, and among them maybe a little bit lesser 2D6. So this so-called disadvantage I am using as a clinical benefit. In which case, we all know that nowadays most of our depressive patients are insomniac, and nowadays we use very commonly mirtazapine. And we know that mirtazapine is metabolized by 3 or 4 these enzymes. It's a drug which is equally metabolized by 3 2D6 and 3A4 and 1A2. All these are pharmacologically very important enzymes. So we are doing in our practice to get the antidepressive effect as well as to get better sleep. We increase the mirtazapine up to 45, sometimes even rarely, but sometimes up to 60 also. It's a relatively safe drug. But instead of doing that, what I do is just put a small moderate dose or a small dose of mirtazapine, and I add a small dose of fluvoxamine. So it blocks all those enzymes, and that mirtazapine is blocked, being metabolized. So you get automatically with minimum oral dose, you get very quickly, very good serum steady level, and you may get a better sleep with the same daily dose of mirtazapine. That's one. Second use, which I am also using its adverse effect in the benefit of the patient, is we all use as in combination, especially in refractory OCD, we use fluvoxamine, fluoxetine, sometimes in combination with clomipramine. So clomipramine actually is a very safe molecule as such. As such, is a very safe in comparison to other tricyclic antidepressants. I find this very safe because in those days when there were no SSRIs, we used to go very high the tricyclics, and among them the safest was and is clomipramine. The unsafe part is its metabolite, first metabolite, desmethylclomipramine. Desmethylclomipramine has no OCD benefit, and it is toxic also. If hypothetically we can just keep only chloromipramine in the serum, in the serum level, I mean, we can give up to 600-700 milligram per day. So what I do is, I try to block conversion of clomipramine into desmethylclomipramine. So I give 200 milligram or 250 milligram clomipramine and 25 milligram fluvoxamine. It blocks its conversion. So I get rid of this toxic metabolite, and I keep only the safe mother compound in the patient's blood. These are two aspects which I wanted to highlight. And one very interesting thing. This is though not from my practical experience, but as we discussed a lot. I mean, Dr. Ashish discussed a lot about sigma-1 receptor, and one very interesting theoretical thing. While we are aging, normally aging, our brain, our nerve cells do not lose sigma-1 receptors. It's more or less, even with the experience and with all the cognitive functions and being more mature and more productive, even it increases. Whereas in Alzheimer's patients, this alpha, this sigma 1 receptor its concentration is decreased. So I'm just wondering, maybe in old age if we use fluvoxamine, maybe it may preserve the sigma 1 receptors and maybe prevent the Alzheimer's disease. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The greatest advantage which I can see, if patient of OCD has comorbid seizure, then fluvoxamine can be good option. It has very low propensity to lower the seizure threshold. So in that way, the other round, like it increases dopamine, but it is also quite effective in seizure obsessive cases as well. So it's a quite mysterious drug. Having said, I think it has been underutilized. One of the greatest factor is cost. So the pharmaceuticals, they would be taken care of. So I will hand over this mic to our chairperson, sir, and I think the session can be taken.
If any comments, Lisa, anybody? Last but not least, why हामी किन यो CME प्रोग्राम अर्गनाइज गर्छौँ, स्पेशली भिआइपी सरहरू पनि हुनुहुन्छ, यहाँ मन्त्रीजीहरू हुनुहुन्छ। एकजना मान्छेलाई एउटा काम गर्न जिम्मा दिएछ, एउटा गएर जङ्गलमा गएर रुख काटेर आउनु भनेर, उसले एक दिनमा 20वटा रुख काट्यो भने उसले फुल स्यालेरी पाउँछ भनेर एउटा बन्चो एक्स दिएर पठाएछ। त्यो मान्छे गएर जङ्गलमा गएर फर्स्ट डेमा 20वटा ल्याएछ, सेकेन्ड डेमा गएर 18वटा भएछ, थर्ड डेमा गएर 15वटा भएछ। जब त्यो कम हुँदै गयो उसको स्यालेरी घटेर गयो, घटेपछि उसको घर चल्ने भएन। अनि त्यो मान्छे गएर म यो काम गर्न सक्दिनँ भनेर त्यो एक्स लिएर गएर त्यो जसले जागिर दियो उसलाई गएर म काम गर्न सक्दिनँ भनेछ। त्यो मान्छेले नेक्स्ट डे त्यो जसले उसले जागिर दिएको तिमी नेक्स्ट डे आऊ भनेछ। अनि सेम एक्स लिएर जङ्गलमा जाऊ भनेछ। जङ्गलमा गएछ, फेरि म जान्न, म हिजो त 10वटा काटेँ, म जान्न भनेछ। तर होइन तिमी गएर ट्राई गर भनेछ। गएपछि सरप्राइज नै उसले फेरि 25वटा काटेछ। त्यो सेम एक्स, हिजोको एक्स जो बन्चोरले काट्यो आज काट्यो, कसरी काट्यो भन्दाखेरि त्यो मान्छेले सोच्यो कि तिमीले चाहिँ त्यो एक्सलाई साफ गर्ने मौका पायो कि पाएन भनेछ। मैले त्यो सोच्दै सोचिनँ भनेछ कि भनेछ हाम्रो ब्रेन पनि त्यस्तै रहेछ। हाम्रो माइन्ड, हामी घरमा काम, हामी अफिसमा काम गर्छौँ, सबै ट्रिट गर्छौँ, आफ्नो आफ्नो उसमा पढाउने काम गर्छौँ, सबै काम गर्छौँ, गर्दा गर्दा माइन्ड डल हुँदो रहेछ। त्यो डल माइन्डलाई सार्प गर्ने भनेको दिस काइन्ड अफ द CME प्रोग्राम वेयर वी सेयर आवर नलेज, एक्सपिरियन्स, सरहरू जस्तो सिनियरबाट चाहिँ जुन कुराहरू सुन्यौँ नि। सो दिज आर द थिङ्स विच यु विल नट गेट टेक्स्ट बुक, किताबमा पाउँदैन। सो त्यो चिजहरूको एक्सपिरियन्स सेयरिङ गरेर हामी के गर्न चाहन्छौँ भन्दाखेरि यो देशमा यो मेन्टल हेल्थ भन्नेमा जुन स्टिग्माटाइज छ र कति मान्छेहरू हामी सुसाइडको कुरा गर्छौँ, दिनमा 20 जनाले सुसाइड गरिरहेको अवस्था छ। त्यस्तो मान्छेहरूको जीवनलाई चाहिँ रक्षा गर्ने, उनीहरूलाई उपचार दिने, औषधिले मात्र होइन काउन्सिलिङ पनि गर्ने, यो हिसाबमा हामी आज जम्मा भएर एक आपसमा सेयरिङ, यो हाम्रो साइकेट्रिक एसोसिएसन नेपालको चाहिँ हाम्रो रेगुलर प्रोग्राम हो। र यो प्रोग्राममा आइदिनु भएकोमा विशिष्ट व्यक्तिहरू सबैलाई म धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु। Dr. Ashish, thank you very much because we are chosen this topic. The reason because this is very good molecule but underutilized and probably after this CME program. And thank you very much, Prabhuji. तपाईहरुले जुन यो प्रोग्रामलाई हामीलाई
Now I would like to request Dr. Arun Kuhar sir. Have a book releasing program. To do this honor, I would like to request माननीय श्रम रोजगार तथा सुरक्षा मंत्री श्री शेर बहादुर कुंवर जी on the dais. Thank you, sir. त्यस्तै गरेर म भूतपूर्व स्वास्थ्य तथा जनसङ्ख्या सचिव डाक्टर निराकमान श्रेष्ठ सरलाई पनि डाइसमा कल गर्न चाहन्छु। Now I would like to So now I formally request our dignitary.
Thank you.